tentative in terms of who can predict where we're headed in the digital world. And at what point, if ever, will we become a cashless society? It sure seems like everything's going that direction. And I'm sure Jason will have some excellent input for us in that department. Thanks for coming over tonight, Jason Hiska, many of you know from Sturgis Bank. And I'd like to pray that the Lord will bless our conversation and encourage us above all things. Lord, thanks for this evening. Thanks for the opportunity that you've given us one more day of life. We ask you to bless and encourage the conversation tonight. And as believers in Jesus Christ, thank you for the assurance that we have that our lives are ultimately under your care. At the same time, we are people and citizens and consumers in this society, and there are real concerns financially that all of us have. But above that, Lord, we know that you are in control, and we pray that you would, again, direct us as we walk by faith. We thank you for this evening. I pray for the group in Coldwater who's meeting tonight on behalf of the police chief and his life and his family. The first responders there, hear their prayer. This prayer vigil is significant for that city, and so we join with them in our concerns and our hearts for Joe Schein's family and for that community. And so again, we ask you for grace as Jason speaks. Thank you for him for this time in Jesus' name. Amen. Jason, we got that mic up high for a reason. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Jim. Oh, careful.
Yep. This is live, remember?
I said something like this to my son the other day. I walked into his room and he had his video games on and a fan on and he had a cord going across there, and I said, "Are you trying to kill me?" So thanks everyone for coming. For those who don't know me, I'm Jason Hiska. Pastor Jim asked me to talk about digital currency and what it is and how it's impactful to everyone's lives. I'm uniquely situated to speak about this. My role, what I do every day, is I'm the CEO for Sturgis Bank and Trust. I've been in the banking industry for almost 32 years. I like to tell joking people until I started when I was 6. Born and raised in Bronson. Graduated from Bronson High School way back in 1992 and still live here with my family. So happy to help talk about it. Everyone, if they want an outline, I've got one. This is just an outline of what digital currency is and the different parts of it. I want this conversation to be interactive because we're talking about people and their money. In my experience, there's a few things that are very precious to people. Number 1 is their family, number 2 is their faith, and number 3 is their money. So I've kind of asked a lot of questions and I've been through a lot when it comes to this particular topic of conversation. So the first question, and I was talking to Seth earlier, how many people think they know what digital currency is? Just by a show of hands, how many of you think you understand what digital currency is? 1, 2? What if I told you that you've all used digital currency in the last 24 hours? How many of you have your credit card or your debit card attached to your phone, and when you go to the store you just scan it? How many of you have a credit or debit card that you've used in the last 24 hours? How many of you have paid a bill online? How many of you have set up an ACH transaction for a credit card payment or a house payment? Digital currency is simply the transferring of money using a digital asset. Digital asset would be a phone. It would be an electronic check, credit or debit card. It's simply the transmission of money. Where a lot of people get nervous and confused about what digital currency is when people start talking about things like cryptocurrency or stablecoin, or to Pastor Jim's point, what's the future of a cashless society? So I think there's a few myths out there that we need to debunk. The first off is digital currency. We're all using it. We're doing it every day. It's backed by your dollars that are in a bank. So I had a conversation again with Seth earlier. Him and I like to talk a little bit from time to time. When was the last time somebody thought they wanted to go to the bank and take every dollar they had and get a pile of cash for it? So if you had $300,000 to your name and you went to your bank and you said, I want $300,000, how many of you think you could go to the bank today and get that? All right, show of hands. No?
Depends which bank.
Well, I love that answer, but no. Banks don't carry that much cash. People don't have that much cash on hand. I am privileged to know a few people that still believe in mason jars in their backyard. I do not recommend that, by the way. I actually, a funny story, I have a client who has a map. The map is hidden and he lost it. True story. So his sons now have metal detectors. Pray that they find it. No, digital currency, paper money. Here's another question. When was the last time somebody paid for something with cash? Most of you? When was the last time you paid for a major purchase in cash? A refrigerator, a new bed, a car? Don't do it. You write a check. Is check digital currency? Can be. Because the transferring of those dollars doesn't happen from my wallet, this $5 bill, to your wallet, a $5 bill. Digital currency is simply the transfer of that asset electronically. Why digital currency? The ease of use, the ease of transferring money. I had a conversation with someone a few weeks ago here at church about depositing a check. That check they can deposit with their phone, but there's limits to that. But you can have the limits raised. Maybe they only deposit one check a year. When was the last time somebody deposited a check in the bank? You walked up to the bank teller and you said, here's my paycheck, or here's my, my check from my sister that she sent me. You can now deposit your checks electronically, and then you're left with this paper check, and what do you do with it? Right. Do you hang on to it? Do you shred it? Do you shred it that day? Do you shred it 5 minutes from now? Do you shred it next week? When is the check cleared? How do I know that it's there? How do I know the check's good? If you're not asking these questions, these are probably all things you need to think about. If you ever use this to deposit a check, which I do all the time, I usually hang on to it for at least 30 days. Because I want to make sure that that check's cleared. Now, most of the checks I deposit are smaller, but if you're a business owner, there are tools out there that will allow you to deposit checks up to millions of dollars if you choose to, and you want to make sure those checks are cleared. One of the things that we deal with on a daily basis at the bank is check fraud. One of the biggest scams out there is you write a check from your business to the plumber down the street. Put that check in the mail. Plumber's got a mailbox out by the street. 3 o'clock in the morning, business owner didn't get his mail out of the mailbox. Bad guy comes along, takes all the mail out of the mailbox. And this doesn't just happen in the downtown businesses, by the way. We've had people that live literally in the boonies that have their mailboxes robbed every day. They get their checks cashed, or their checks stolen, everything in the mail. They can get your account numbers, your investment statements. They get everything that you have. They create a new identification, because for $100 you can go on the black market and get a new identification that says, my name is Jason Hiska. I can present that at a bank. It's a valid Michigan-looking driver's license. And I can deposit that check because I now have your check number. And I can alter the check. I can alter the check for whatever you want, because that happens all the time. It's called check washing. You don't know the check has been washed. You didn't even know you received it. The plumber says you never got paid. Your check cleared for $10,000 more than what you wrote it for. And the bad guy's now in the next town over doing the same thing to somebody else. So digital currency is here for a reason. That is the biggest check fraud, is the biggest source of fraud that we deal with on a daily basis today. Digital currency removes that barrier. When you send that check to the plumber now, you send him an ACH transaction or an electronic transfer. Now that money happens instantaneous, it leaves your account, it gets to their account the same day, it's all electronic, nobody's there. So it's a safer mode of transportation. You get money to give to someone else, but it's cashless. It's something that we're seeing more and more of every day, not only at the business level, that seems to be the biggest target, but we also see it at the personal level. We're seeing a lot of that happen on a daily basis. So digital currency will help relieve that. So will things like electronic statements. I know a lot of people still used to, when I started in banking 30 years ago, a lot of people would get their checks back with their checking account statement. How many of you remember asking to receive doing that? Don't do that anymore. Because those checks, all of your financial information is on a check. Your routing number, which tells the bad people which bank it is, because each bank has their own separate routing number. Your account number's on there, and you probably put your name, your middle initial, your last name, your address. Some of you put your phone number, and some of us put our driver's license number on there. If you ever put your social security number on a check, please don't ever do that. I've seen that happen before too. Now all of your personal identifiable information is now available to the bad guys. And they will use it. They will use it on a daily basis. Digital currency takes that threat away. Now it's all electronic. So the transfer of those funds now is safer, faster, and you don't have to worry about getting robbed. So those are digital currency. That's kind of the reasons why I think digital currency is here to stay. We talked about a cashless society. I don't ever see a point in time where cash goes away. There's always going to be a need for it. If the power goes out, digital currency probably isn't going to work, right? Internet goes out. Most of these transactions are done via the internet, via the World Wide Web, on secure communication lines. The wild, wild west for digital currency is cryptocurrency and stablecoin. And I think that was, when Pastor Jim and I talked, that was one of the questions he had was, what is cryptocurrency? Where does it play a role in our financial system today? How does that work? So before I get into that, on your handouts, all of these definitions I got off the internet today. So I just wanted to go through them a little bit, some of which I've already talked about. The first one is the first for a reason. Digital currency is money that exists primarily in electronic form, used for transactions, storage of value, and exchange without physical cash, which is exactly what I just talked about. And it goes on to give you definitions. And there's a couple things on here I want to talk about where it says decentralized or centralization. Some digital currencies, like cryptocurrencies, are decentralized and operate without banks. One of the things that I do want to point out is cryptocurrency, stablecoin is going to be regulated within the financial industry. But when we talk about what's the future going to look like when it comes to money and money transfer, I do feel that cryptocurrency and stablecoins will play a role. I'm not sure what that role is, but the first thing that should be done, and is in the process of being done, is making it regulated. Most of us, if you're like me, don't want any more government in our lives. But in the case of cryptocurrency, it is the wild, wild west right now. You go out and you buy some cryptocurrency, and by the way, if you buy cryptocurrency, don't ever use an ATM kiosk in a store. If you walk into the Shell station in Brunson, there's this little kiosk sitting there next to Subway, and it's a crypto kiosk. 90% of the transactions that happen at those crypto kiosks are fraudulent, and you will lose money with those. The only one who makes money is the operator of the store, and every once in a while the people that actually use it. So please don't ever do that. And that's a stat from the Michigan State Police, by the way. I didn't make that up. But cryptocurrency is unregulated. Even though there is a market out there for it, and there are people that buy and sell and trade it every day, there is no government regulation to cryptocurrency. So you come to a bank, you deposit your money, you even go invest in the stock market with a stockbroker. There are rules and regulations to how they operate, what they can do and what they can't do. Sometimes you have bad actors that do bad things, but there's regulations out there that are supposed to be enforced. In the world of cryptocurrency, there's not. There is nothing out there that says you do A, you get to B, and then you get to C. It is unregulated. Why is cryptocurrency so popular with some people? They like it's new, it's shiny, because the technology behind cryptocurrency is something that I think we're going to see more of. A lot of these technologies that are out there, their sole design is to get the transfer of money to happen faster and more instantaneous. With cryptocurrency, I can pull up my phone, I can get into my digital wallet, I can say Jim Irwin, who's got a digital wallet someplace else, and I can hit $50 send and it's in his wallet within 30 seconds. It's the speed of that transfer. Now, in that 30 seconds, the $50 I sent him could be worth 10, or it could be worth 500. Because it's an unregulated market and it trades, the volatility in that market is crazy. It's worse than ours. So that is something that you need to be aware of if you're going to go into that realm. But right now, if you follow Congress at all, there's some regulation out there right now that is pending. There's the Genius Act, which was passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate. There's now another act called the Clarity Act. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, I would strongly recommend that you read those regulations. They're extremely important because they're establishing the baseline for regulations on a go-forward basis and this sort of things. And I will argue that as much as our legislators really want to be in this world and really want to help us, they don't understand anything about what they're doing. That's not a knock against legislators. I know all of them. I like most of them. They're mostly good people, but they're an inch deep and 25 miles wide. In cryptocurrency, you need to be 25 miles deep and an inch wide. You need to understand this inside and out because of the ramifications it has. Somebody asked me once, are we ever going to see a cashless society? Not in my lifetime, not in my children's lifetime. Everything we do will be based on the US dollar. It just may mean that we may not have US dollars in our wallets anymore. And the evidence is by the number of people that have used digital currency in the last day in this room. You know, we paid for things with cash. I bought a $2 candy bar at the vending machine today at work. I paid for that with cash. I got gas this morning. I paid for that with my credit card. I made my house payment last week. I did that through an electronic transfer. Paid my credit card bill last week. I did that through an electronic transfer. I write 0 checks a month if I can help it, and I have for a long time. Data from the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, said that check writing has fallen by 2/3 over the last 10 years. People just aren't writing checks because there's other modes of transporting that money digitally. So with that, I'm going to take a break. What questions do you guys have?
Banks are also up in the cost of checks here. I don't know whether that's related or intentional or what, but we've noted that we used to get free checking.
Yep.
We have to pay for every check we send them.
Banks don't create their own checks. They all use third-party vendors. And the cost from the vendors has gone up no different than the cost of a loaf of bread at a grocery store. So banks and credit unions will take that cost and then pass it along to the consumer. So that's the reason why. Now, the other reason I would argue is that the check companies are charging more because there's less checks being written. So in order for them to maintain their same profit margin, they're saying, I'm losing money, so I need to up the cost of that in order to at least stay at the same level.
What is your reaction to fees, credit card fees?
So my personal opinion on credit cards is I will never own a credit card that I pay a fee on.
No. When you use it.
Oh, when I use it?
Businesses are charging you 3% or whatever to do that rather than cash or a check.
I'm surprised it took the businesses so long to pass that along. Because that has been a fee businesses have been paying for years, and they simply ate it or upped the cost of the product. My personal opinion is business not only upped the cost of their product years ago, now they're passing that fee along to the consumer. So my personal opinion is much like everything else, the price has gone up. They're not reducing the cost of their product by the cost of the fee, which would make sense. Instead, the cost is already what it is, and they're adding the fee to it. It's an interesting question because stablecoin, which I talked about a little bit in my packet, is a digital currency, much like crypto, but different. A, it's more regulated, but B, it's tied to the US dollar. So the reason stablecoin right now is popular with banks and other entities is because stablecoin is pegged to the US dollar. So one stablecoin is equal to $1 US, which is different than cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is the wild, wild west. Like I said, I can send that money to Pastor Jim. It was $50 when I sent it. It could be $300 when he gets it, or it could be $10. Stablecoin is going to be $1. So one stablecoin equals $1 US. But it's the payment rails that it goes. And the reason stablecoin is popular right now is because the cost of that payment rail is 2/3 less than the cost of a Visa or MasterCard fee. So retailers are extremely excited about payment with stablecoin. So if you can set up a stablecoin account, pay with that on your phone, now the retailer saves 2.5% of that 3% fee. And their money's instantaneous versus with a retailer, 2 or 3 times a day, Walmart will hit their credit card button and it'll download all the transactions from that point beyond into a machine and the money gets deposited in their account. They'll do that 2 or 3 times a day, but it's a manual process. You have to hit that button. With stablecoin, it's instantaneous. It's like a P2P, a person-to-person payment. It goes to you, it's right there. The other thing with stablecoin that's people like it is because I can transfer money if I'm a business owner here in Sturgis, Michigan, and I want to pay someone in China who has a stablecoin account, I can hit send and boom, it's in China in 30 seconds. Now there's no regulations to that. Once the money's gone, it's gone. There's no recourse. So you better hope that the bill you're paying is accurate. You better hope your information information is accurate of where it's going, because once you hit that button, it's gone, you can't get it back, because there's no regulation at this point to that. Same thing with cryptocurrency. If I hit an extra zero on my son to Jim, he's now got $500 and not 50. I have no recourse in that, because there's no regulation that says this is what I need to do. There's no error to that.
But to follow up on her question, I think she was saying, do I need to carry cash to pay the bill at the restaurant instead of paying the...
It's just annoying.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
And that's the question, that was
Yeah,
what I was thinking.
in most restaurants, I eat out a lot. I go to Taco Loco and Sturgis for lunch sometimes. They say, are you paying with cash or card? My bill with cash is $11.18. My bill with a card is $13.25. You're seeing that everywhere. And so they're giving you, the retailers are giving you an incentive to pay with cash right now. They're saying it's going to be cheaper because they're not passing that fee along. They're giving you that option. It didn't used to be that way. You just got charged the 3% fee, but now they're giving you that option.
So the cashless society won't happen because I can carry the $15.
Until the evolution of stablecoin comes along, which the retailers are pushing for. And they're saying I can do this transaction for 2/3 or even less than that. And stablecoin is so widely adopted that now it's on everybody's phone, much like a credit card. Because it's pegged to the US dollar and it's regulated.
But it's doing right here from your bank account, so no like credit card, that in my mind is a little safer because.
Yeah, stablecoin will come out of the bank account. That's how that process is set up. There's other ramifications to the banking world for that, which I won't go into right now, but there are negative ramifications to the banks, the way the rules are written that are out there right now for banks. But yes, it comes right from the bank account. Big businesses are using stablecoin right now for the payment to vendors, just because of the payment rails, because of the speed at which that money transfers.
So you don't have a concern about your bank account being open to all these different things?
You have to open it
I
up.
tried to look at that, but.
You have to open it up. So you have the control on your side.
Yeah.
That's where regulation will come
It's still a
in.
vulnerability. If it's-
That's where regulations will come in, and no different than right now. So if you're internet banking, this is another scam. If you have internet banking and your computer at home gets hacked and you don't know it, you clicked on a link, you did something, you don't know what you did, all of a sudden there's a hacker in there. They're sitting there waiting for you to log into your internet banking, type in your username and your password, which is the same password, by the way, that you've had for 10 years, and you use for every one of your other accounts.
No, never.
So they're waiting for that. The minute you log in, they've keystroked your password. You're going to log off. They're going to log back in themselves. They're going to change your password. They're going to change your email address. And now they have you. They have access to everything you've got. And this happens a lot. We catch this, I would say we probably do 15 of these a week. And people don't know that their electronics have been hacked because you got an email on your account that was something you thought was interesting from somebody that you thought you knew. But instead of coming from Jason Hiska, it came from J-Y-S-O-N, not J-A-S-O-n. Or the at part was, instead of at Sturgis.bank, it came from at STUR.BAN. Very similar, but not the same. Fraudsters are very good at doing that. But to your point, then there's ramifications outside of that. But we have rules we have to follow that say, as a consumer, you have a certain amount of time to report that, to check back to us, and then we can go out and usually get you your money back, reset your passwords. Sometimes we have to close your accounts and open new ones because now they have access to your account numbers. Sometimes you want to put credit alerts out because now they've got access to your social security number and your PII, and it's a whole thing. Anyone else? Have I properly scared everyone yet?
Yes. I was just thinking, I am going cash.
It's not nearly as bad as you think. So as most of you know, I have two sons, they're 14 and 16. And for any of us in here with children, you know that they're probably connected to this device more than what we would like, but they do everything on this device. That will include their banking, that will include their investments, that will include their payments. There are a lot of enough built-in protections, in my opinion, with this sort of transaction where you're going to be fine. But you have to pay attention. It will force you to pay attention to the assets you have, the money that you have, and watch over it. So how many of you in here balance your checkbook every month? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hands. I'm gonna give everyone a chance to put it out and say that there's probably a few more of you in here, but there's plenty of you in here that don't. What I have told people that have come to me in the past when their checkbook didn't balance, because I used to do a lot of this, is it's your money, you worked hard for it, why aren't you keeping track of it? Is there a tree in your backyard that no one knows about? Because if there is, you don't need to worry about money because you got your own money tree, but most of us don't have that luxury. That thought process is even more important as we move forward. You have to be on top of it. It's not something you can let slide for 2 months. Because if you do, when something bad happens, there's rules that banks have to follow, but there's also time constraints that say if you don't check back in 30 days, if there's fraud that's happened to your account, you don't notify it in 30 days, you're out of luck. It's not gonna work for you. There's no recourse. The bank, on our income statement every year, when we do budgeting, I set aside between $200,000 and $300,000 for fraud losses that the bank eats every year. That's just me. I'm one bank, I have 18 branches that scatter throughout Southwest Michigan. We have about 50,000 customers. If you translate that to JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Southern Michigan Bank and Trust, Century Bank, we're all claiming fraud losses that total in the hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we eat because when we follow the rules, we give you your money back. That's what we're supposed to do. Not all times do we collect that money back from the end person. So the banks will eat that, get you your money back as long as we follow the rules. So there are building protections. That's where the regulation part comes in. That's extremely important for everyone to understand. It's not as scary as it sounds, Kim. But you do need to pay attention, and you do need to be on top of it. And it is a conversation worth having with your children, with other family members, because I love my mom and dad to death, but they weren't the ones that sat down and showed me how to balance a checkbook. I had to learn that on my own. You know, my kids use this thing. I've sat them both down with an Excel spreadsheet. They have their own checking account. And now I've sat down and showed them what they need to do and how they need to keep track of it. Now, they keep track of their checking account on their internet banking app, but at least they're keeping track of it and they're balancing it every month. I would argue the same thing goes for your investment accounts. Because again, you're probably getting those statements in the mail. If you're like me, I still get mail statements because I want to hold the paper. I don't know why. That's the only thing I have that comes in the mail. But somebody could rob my mailbox out my front yard. I wouldn't know it. And all of a sudden, if they have access to my account information, or they hack my internet banking, and I don't know it, that's something that you need to be mindful of. Just need to pay more attention.
And going back to where the credit cards are now charging, like you go out to eat. And
Yep.
I used to always pay with a credit card because I could get points,
Yep.
get money back. And then when they started charging, I've gotten where I carry cash now, where I never did before. So I guess my question is, and I didn't get maybe what your answer was, should I pay in cash or should I still pay with my credit card, even though I'm being charged 3%, 4%?
So that depends on, so here's the banker in me coming out. That really depends on how much you're earning in points on your credit card, what you're using it for.
Well, that's
So
why
if you're gonna get
I'm trying to
five-
figure this out.
If you're gonna get 5% cash back, and you're paying an extra 3%, you're still up 2%, right?
Okay,
But if, and most of them don't, you're better off to pay cash with the savings.
because I was trying to
Yep,
weigh that too.
yeah.
And two, I missed you say, don't get your bank statement in the mail.
If you can get it electronically, I would.
Then I have all that information on my computer. And do I want that information on my computer?
Do you want it on your computer where you can change the password yourself and you can do that? Or do you want it in the mailbox where one day randomly you walk out and you missed your bank statement this month and you don't know why? And then come to find out you've got 3 checks that cleared your bank that you don't know who they came from because you didn't write them. So you're right, there's goods and bads with both. There's pros and cons to doing both of them. But you can't put all your money in a mattress.
The what?
You can't put all your money in a mattress. I suppose you could, but
I just don't really do any banking business or anything on my computer as far as money
and
business.
if you don't, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's work. Just be extra mindful of it.
You should tell them about multi-factor too, they have online accounts.
Yeah, so one of the protections on my phone, so for those of you that log into your phone, if I log into this phone right now, there's this little thing down here that's my fingerprint. It's obviously unique to me. Most phones have this now. So I click my fingerprint on and that gets me into my phone. If I go into my app for my banking account, it's going to ask me for a username and a password, and then it's going to text me a code.
Yeah.
Or it's going to email me a code, or sometimes it's going to be another fingerprint to get in. That's called multi-factor authentication. It's a way to protect access to that device and then that account. So when I go to work every day, I turn my computer on, I've got to type in my username and password, and then I get this little two-factor authentication thing that comes up. It sends a message to my phone, then I got to click on this screen, and I got to touch yes to this button, and then I got to go over here and do that. I got to do that probably 4 times a day to get into my computer at work. Now you can imagine, we've got records for 50,000 customers on the computer, so we want to make sure that we're safe. We do a similar thing for our customers, as I'm sure you guys do at Greenstone, and other banks will do as well. So it's multi-factor authentication because sometimes your username will get taken. Somebody might get your password, but they're not going to be able to change that initial password certification where it's coming to. So you're going to get this. The other day I woke up, Sunday morning I woke up, and there was an email from Sturgis Bank that said, you tried to get into your account at midnight. This was a real thing. It happened to me. I'm like, no, I didn't. So I went out and talked to my wife, who was up at midnight, and I said, were you into the bank account? She says, oh yeah, I wonder why I couldn't get into it. Okay, well, problem solved, but it got my attention at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. But that's the two-factor authentication that Eric was talking about that helps protect you and your money when you're using digital currency instruments.
You should do that, by the way.
Yeah, most places, you can't get away with it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I call table stakes. It's just the way it is. It's annoying.
It is.
A lot of customers that we deal with don't like it because it's change, but once you explain to them why, and when you sit at my table and you have to explain to someone why they lost $60,000 because of this, it becomes a much easier sell.
Well, Jason, with credit cards, if you use it, usually it's on your phone, you get a ping saying you just spent this much money.
You can, yep.
And then the other piece, is that valid? And the other piece is credit cards you can dispute.
Yep,
Is that another safeguard?
it is.
Okay.
Same thing with, and you can set up those same alerts, so depending upon the bank, so at Sturgis Bank, I can't speak for all banks, but most banks will have these options. Where if I went out and used my debit card from the bank to buy gas, I'm going to get that email that says, email notification, you spent $82.99 on gas. If that wasn't you, then you need to call the bank and dispute it, or some places will have it where, is this you, check yes or no. So you can have those alerts set up, or they'll automatically happen. In our case, we have to have them set up. That can be annoying, but in my case, when my wife goes shopping, it's kind of nice to know. What other questions or thoughts does everyone have?
I used a fingerprint.
Yep.
It did not recognize my fingerprint.
On the first time, second time, or third time?
Never.
Really?
First time.
Using the right finger?
That's a real question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes with
So I
mine,
won't give them my fingerprint.
so sometimes with my phone, it depends on if I'm sweaty. It depends on if it's dirty. It depends on whether my screen's dirty. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that with how that works. But most phones, when you have them, you'll have a fingerprint and I have a PIN number. So I have an Android device. So if my fingerprint doesn't work, I just simply swipe the screen and I've got a 4-digit PIN that's unique to me in this phone. So most places will have that. So I have 3 apps on my phone that have fingerprint authentication. They also have 4-digit PINs that are associated with that in the event that doesn't work. So my guess is, and again, I'm not a technical expert, but you may have that opportunity to use a 4-digit PIN number or 5 or whatever that is for your device. There's usually 2 ways to get into it.
With credit cards, they use tap now.
Yep.
I don't see how that's secure. If they get my card, it doesn't ask for a PIN number or anything.
That's the chip that's inside your card. That's the
Yeah.
difference. So the chip is unique to that card, which is unique to your account. So the reason that they did that was because when you insert a credit card into a machine, so when I go to the gas station, I put my card in, there's something called a card skimmer. So that card skimmer takes the information off your card, sends it to the bad guys, and now they have your card information. The thought process behind that is tapping it is A, faster, but it's also less intrusive. That card skimmer, that goes away at that point.
But if somebody else gets my card,
If they get your card, they don't have the chip. So they can still activate your card, they can still use it, but because it wasn't done with the chip, my guess is the credit card company will see that. And they're also, credit card companies are famous for this. If there's a transaction, most of us are creatures of habit. So I go to the same gas station most of the time. I'm in the same general area geographically most of the time. I buy a lot of the same stuff most of the time. If my credit card sees a charge in Greenville, Tennessee, and knows that I haven't, and I just got gas in Sturgis, Michigan, I get a phone call from my credit card. Because their fraud departments are on top of it from that way because it triggered something that was not new. So there are, again, those are the fraud components that are built in. These are all safeguards that credit card companies and some banks have already implemented to help protect their customers.
So PayPal leaves all your information in one location.
Yep.
Compared to using multiple credit cards. What is there an advantage to PayPal? Is it more secure, or do they prevent fraud, or will they, if you do get it, will they, reimburse you? Do you know anything about PayPal?
So I don't know a lot about PayPal, but I will give you my view as a banker. PayPal is not a federally regulated institution. It is a fintech, it's a financial technology company. I use PayPal as a method of payment for various things, but I don't use it very often and I don't keep money there. But I know some people that use that, or Venmo, or Zelle all the time. They're not banks, so they're not regulated by the same regulations that we are. So to answer your question directly, I do not think your money is protected in PayPal. So, and I don't know what the dispute process is for that. And that is a common misconception with consumers, that when you're out there using a P2P, a Zelle or a Venmo, that there's, especially, so as a bank, we offer Zelle. And you can get Zelle through Sturgis Bank, but it doesn't come with the same protections that you would if you did wrote a check or used your debit card. There's a whole different set of disclosures. So when you guys go to open a checking or savings account, you're going to get a packet of disclosures this thick. None of us read them, but in the fine print there's language that tells you what will and won't be covered with that transaction. And some people like that because it's, again, it's that instant payment. I could sit there, Dave, and I could Zelle you $50 today, right now, and they'd be there.
Zelle has a little bit more protection than PayPal, and so there are certain restrictions, like you can only charge so much per day and per transaction if you go over that. But with any of those, if you Venmo or PayPal or Zelle the wrong person, you're not going to get it back. Yeah, you're not going to get it back. So you really have to be careful.
What other questions? What other thoughts, concerns? Jean?
I have Venmo that I get paid with. I don't pay other people, I just get paid. And it's linked to our checking account.
So the money comes into Venmo,
Yep.
and then it goes into your checking account.
So if something were to happen where did that money go, does our bank have some kind of a...
So at that point in time, the money's in your checking account at the bank. Now it's covered by the rules of the bank. If somebody comes into Venmo illegally, they hack your account, and they take money from your bank should be able to fight that as long as you're aware within a certain time frame of when that transaction happened. So again, now it comes back to being mindful and taking account for how long, balancing your account basically. That's something you want to be mindful of.
Yeah, which is nice. With Venmo, I get an email telling me what the date was, the transaction, who gave it to me. Kind of a secondary, I can go to and look.
Yep.
Keep track.
Yeah. The second most heavily regulated industry in the United States is banking. The first most regulated industry is healthcare. But from a regulatory perspective, banks follow more rules and regulations than any other entity outside of the healthcare industry. So, I'm regulated under the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. There's two other regulators out there that regulate banks. There's one regulator that regulates credit unions. I don't know who regulates Farm Credit Council. Yeah. So there's always somebody looking at a bank. There's always rules that are being written for banks to protect consumers specifically. All you had to do was watch the news in the last 10 years, and you'd have seen all kinds of information about protecting consumers and fraud and all this and that. That still happens, that still goes on. There's still a whole list of rules that banks have to follow. Today's point with PayPal, with Venmo, with Zelle, with these other financial technology companies called fintechs, it literally is the wild, wild west. There's a cryptocurrency company called Kraken that actually received the first Federal Reserve payments charter, or I forget what it's called. They now have a limited use to get on the Federal Reserve payment rails, which is what they're trying to do. That's the first attempt to get into the banking industry from the crypto industry, but the crypto industry literally is the wild, wild west. But there are literally billions of dollars out there that came out of the banking system that are sitting in the crypto system waiting to get that regulation to come in. That's why everybody, when you watch TV and you hear about this, there's money to be made there. These people see that, so they're spending it to get the regulation passed that will allow them to do that. There will be an evolution in payments. There will be an evolution in money. My opinion, it will never stray away from the dollar. Like all things, things will change. For some reason, it has to get faster. I still don't understand that because I can send money to China and it'll get there today. But now I want it to get there within an hour. And before long, I want to get there within 10 minutes. I don't know what the difference, I don't know how that's going to help the other party, I don't know how that's going to help me. But because once I hit send, the money's gone from my bank. But that seems to be the evolution. Everybody's talking about how to get payments done quicker, faster, with more ease. When you hear the phrase blockchain, if you go into your pamphlet, I found this extremely interesting, that's why I put it in here. Maybe the last page. So here's second to last page. What is blockchain technology? I found this very interesting. As you read through this, blockchain, at its core, blockchain stores data in blocks. Each block contains a set of validated transactions, a timestamp, cryptographic hash to the previous block, linking them in a secure chain. This structure ensures that altering one block would require chaining all subsequent blocks, which is computationally impractical. I found that very interesting because blockchain is just that. It is a set of blocks with data in it for transactions that stem from the originator to the receiver. I don't know how it works. I'm not a computer guy, but that is baffling to me. What will happen over time is I do think blockchain technology will take hold, but now somebody's going to try to regulate this whole process. That's not going to be me. I don't understand it, but it is fascinating to me, but that's what billions of dollars a day are being spent on, how to figure that out. So when Greenstone originates a land loan to a farmer to buy a piece of land, that transaction could literally happen in an hour, from start to finish. That's the whole purpose of blockchain, to speed the process up. So the data from the borrower will come in on the blockchain because it's all their financial data. Greenstone will have everything there prepared, they'll approve it. The seller's information will be there, all the other supporting documentation, and it will close. That's the whole purpose behind that transaction. So it all happens like this. So you got a house you're going to sell, you get a buyer for it, boom, it closes in an hour. Seller gets the mortgage, or seller gets the money, buyer gets a mortgage, or pays cash, and away they go. That's the whole purpose behind all of this, is so it can happen faster. And again, I personally don't understand it. I think the world moves fast enough as it is.
When are we gonna get rid of those plastic cards and put my computer right here on my shoulder?
Your chip.
You know what, I'll let Jim answer that question.
I was gonna ask that.
I did hear the other day, this was a TikTok video, so take it for what it's worth. But there are QR codes that people are putting on their hands now, to your point, to scan for their digital currency. I don't know the validity of it, but one of my kids saw it. No dad works for a bank, thought it was cool, I got to see it.
Was that to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hope they don't get a good comment from the
I That's beyond me. Does anyone have any other questions, Jack?
Oh, it's not a question, I was just gonna say, I read an article a couple days ago about some of the countries in Europe are actually introducing chip implants for financial stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that for many years. I've yet to see it or witness it. I'm pretty well traveled in the banking world in the United States, and I have yet to see that or see anything like that. So doesn't mean it isn't happening. It's just not happening anywhere now around or it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone have any other questions? Thoughts, comments, concerns? John?
Gain money I can borrow?
All we need to do is sit down and negotiate rate and term. That's all it takes.
Just a couple of years ago, my dad had got gas down the Hudson, and before he got home, the bank was calling him, because somebody, within minutes of him getting gas in Hudson, somebody else in California was getting gas on his debit card. Okay.
And was that done with a reader on the?
Probably a skimmer. They'll put the card in, the skimmer in there is usually it's got some sort of electronic transmission, so the bad guys will get your account number, and they know the quicker they act, the quicker they can get it, or they'll sit on it for months or years. So they'll do one of the two things.
So is it safer, would you know, to use your phone instead of your credit card? You just put your phone up to get gas, you use your phone to pay a bill at a restaurant or whatever. Is the transaction between your phone better security than using your credit card?
I would say they're equally the same.
Okay.
And maybe err to the side of the phone only because the phone, you have to get into it. Your credit card is in your wallet or in your pockets and you pull it out and you might lose it. That'd be the only difference in my opinion. Credit card company has its own built-in protection, so if there is fraud, you're gonna get that phone call, like Jack said, relatively soon, that says, did you do this, is this you? Or you're gonna see that on your statement and you're gonna dispute it.
Something happened to me the first time the other day. I was at Pilot getting gas because I go to Indiana because they're cheaper down there. But they charged me, it was like a $67 charge, but it was $167 on when I looked in my account. And I called them and they said that's standard now for a lot of places to make sure you've got the money in your account. Is
So
that?
when you use your debit card or a credit card, it's usually a debit card at a gas station. It's not, especially the gas prices the way they are, it's not uncommon for them to put a $100 hold on your credit card.
That's what it was.
Yep, they'll put a $100 hold. It used to be $1. Now it's $100. They'll put a hold on the account until the transaction clears. So when you go to look at your account, so if you left the gas station, went home, pulled up your account online, or looked at your phone, it'll show a $100 hold. It might show the $67 you paid for gas, and the next morning the $100 will disappear and the $67 will be there. But what it does is it holds $167 of available dollars out of your checking account at that moment in time. So it's not going to impact the check because the check's not going to clear till the next morning. But if you went to get cash out of your account, and say you had $200 there, but you wanted to get $100, it won't let you. The bank will look at that and say, well, you don't have available funds.
How is that legal for them to do that?
It's a great question. I'm not an attorney, I don't know. The other thing I've seen is they'll put a $100 hold. The next day, the $67 will clear, and the $100 was gone. So they're only going to do one and not two. So,
how do you see like AI changing the banking industry as a whole?
oh my gosh.
And I guess the thought I've had, do you foresee, I mean, I think we've all thought about this with AI, how's that gonna affect jobs? I mean, do you see a day where you come to the teller line and there's a robot there instead of a person?
So the answer to your question on the robot is no. I don't believe there'll ever be a robot in banking. But I do envision a point in time where you walk in, and if you're already seeing it at some institutions, and you'll see 3 digital transaction machines and 1 person over here. So you don't have to have 3 people, you only have to have 1, and people are gonna do their business, deposit their checks, whatever, through the automated machine that's there. How will AI impact banking? That's a loaded question. I can tell you how we're looking at AI at Sturgis Bank. We think AI will improve efficiencies on how we operate across the spectrum. So in our world of banking, we're leveraging technology to make our everyday processes at the push of a button instead of 4 people looking at 5 spreadsheets to come up with the answer. So we're taking technology, not necessarily AI, and saying, how can I make the technology that we have currently make us more efficient? Where AI comes in, and Erica, you and I had this conversation not that long ago, but in the world of lending, when you come into me for a mortgage loan, I ask you for all this data. I ask you for tax returns, paycheck stubs, bank statements, all this. Right now, I have a human looking at that data. They put it in a spreadsheet, they crunch out a bunch of numbers, and they say, okay, these are your numbers. There's already AI out there that will take that information, you scan it into a machine, all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, it spits you all the same information. So the question is really, at what point in time I'm going to remove that human from that role, although somebody still has to be there to be the decision maker, in some cases. So I think the future of AI will change the roles that are inside a bank, because there's always got to be a human decision maker, somebody to overlook what the AI is giving you. Because AI, we found to be about 75 to 80% accurate. And we've tested this across various spectrums of what we're doing. But it will take that role. So I have 4 mortgage underwriters right now, and I can see a point in time in my career, I'm only 51, I'll be 52 next month, my birthday's the 3rd, I'll have chocolate chip cookies anymore. But I do see a point in time in my career where we'll look at the workforce and say, I only need 1 person to do this job, where I used to have 3, and I can do 3 times the volume because it's now this fast versus what took 3 people 8 hours a day to do. But I'm also going to need those 3 people in other roles inside the institution, because for every job that AI will take away, it's going to create 1 more. There's always got to be a human in the decision factor. The skill set's going to change. It's no different than when I was growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, robots were coming out. And my dad was a tool maker. And one of the thoughts was that tool and die companies would go away because robots would take over.
That's all over the internet now.
So robots would take over. That never really happened. You know, there are some things that you're just going to need a human in the loop for. But the type of job that's there is going to be different. So that's an interesting thought. So my kids are 14 and 16. I can almost guarantee you the job that they're going to get when they're out of college may not even be invented today. It may not even be thought of. It's just the evolution of how things go. So in banking, it's going to be no different than in the natural or Michigan Gas Company. You know, you're already seeing meters being read electronically. You don't have a meter reader anymore. That was advanced technology that took the place of it with digital electronics, right? At what point in time will they be able to detect gas leaks? What point in time will they be able to repair some gas leaks without a person? I mean, all of those things will change, but it doesn't mean the human has to be involved somewhere in the process. It just means the role of the human is going to change. That was a loaded question.
Yeah, I'll speak to that next week. Jeremy Retz from Trine University, professor of engineering down there, uses AI regularly. He'll be speaking to that question, how they use AI at the moment in the university, and potential for good or evil in the future. It's really a loaded question, and all of us are kind of on edge to see what that's going to produce, or good and bad. McDonald's already uses it. I mean, you walk in, you don't need a person at the desk, you just order their own machine, and it goes up one thing, and bring it out. A little robot comes out with your recorder and drops it on your lap. Parting shots, any comments or questions for Jason?
If anybody has questions or thoughts and they want to talk to me afterwards or after a Sunday morning, I'm happy to have conversations.
How many of you are going to go home and down to check?